The road to the city was long, dust-coated and loud with the hum of dreams. Sei sat quietly at the edge of the bus seat, his small bag clutched against his chest, holding everything he owned: 2 shirts, a worn Bible, and a handwritten letter from the village chief who had believed in him. He had nothing. No parents. No siblings. His mother died giving birth to his last brother, who didn't make it past the first week. His father was buried during the rainy season, in a shallow grave that collapsed before the third day. Hunger and hardship had been his earliest companions, but so had kindness from strangers and wisdom from elders who saw something in his silence. What he lacked in schooling, he made up for in determination. He walked 5 kilometers every day to help at the village repair shed, learning how to fix anything from broken radios to creaking doors. At night, he read old newspapers by lantern light, collecting big words he didn't understand and asking the schoolteacher about them in the morning. When the chief's cousin in the city promised a job opening at a top-tier company, Zenko Group, as a cleaner or file assistant, Sei didn't think twice. He left everything behind, blessing the village soil with his footsteps. 2 years later, Sei rose every morning at 4:30 a.m. He cleaned the halls, organized dusty cabinets no one else cared about, and always wore a quiet smile. The company was a towering beast of glass and marble. The people inside, restless wolves in suits. Yet Sei walked among them like a ghost, ignored, underestimated, invisible. But he didn't complain. He learned. He listened. And over time, the floor supervisors began to notice something different about him. His reports were neat. His attendance perfect. They promoted him to mailroom assistant, then to logistics support, then one day to personal office runner on the executive floor. And that was when he met Simi. She was thunder in heels, daughter of the company's founder, hair always sharp, clothes always loud. When she entered a room, conversations died. People trembled, bowed, stepped aside. "Do you think because you have a degree you can waste my time?" she shouted at an intern once, slamming a file on her desk. "You're lucky. My father still allows children like you to touch his company." She had slapped a manager for turning off her office AC without permission. One man resigned after she threw her tablet at him for correcting her spelling in a presentation. She was brilliance wrapped in cruelty. Simi's office was a fortress. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls, a chrome desk that shone like ice, and a long row of awards and certificates that screamed success louder than any introduction. No one entered unless invited. And even then, most didn't speak unless spoken to. She ran the operations wing of Zenko Group like a military base. Meetings started the second she stepped in. Emails were expected to be answered within 5 minutes. Dress codes were strict. Mistakes, unforgivable. Sei had been on the executive floor barely a week before he saw her rage firsthand. A junior staffer had mistakenly printed a confidential report on the wrong paper type. Simi didn't shout, she whispered. And somehow that whisper carried more terror than a scream. "Do I look like someone who tolerates sloppiness?" The poor boy nodded, then shook his head, confused. Sei quietly dropped the stack of mail at the reception desk and disappeared before she noticed him. One morning, while sipping her signature ginger tea, Simi glanced up and saw him again, this time adjusting the plant pot near her glass door. Most staff passed that pot without a second look. It was just office decor. But Sei tilted it slightly to the right, toward the light. Strange. Another day, she overheard 2 admin girls whispering about how the new guy from the mailroom fixed the jammed scanner when IT said they'd come back next week. "Quiet but sharp," one of them said. Simi raised an eyebrow. She began to see him more often. Quiet, careful, always early. He didn't fumble like the others. He was unaffected. And that bothered her. One Friday evening, the office emptied as usual by 6 p.m., but Simi remained at her desk, eyes flicking through sheets she'd already read twice. Her phone buzzed with a message from her. Father, another business dinner, another string of rich suitors he hoped she'd marry. She sighed and stood to stretch. Through the glass wall, she saw Sei alone in the adjacent room, organizing files on a shelf with methodical calm. Everyone had gone home. He hadn't. She hesitated, then walked into the file room. He turned when he heard the door open. "Ma, no one's here," she said, her voice flatter than usual. "You can drop the ma." Sei paused, then gave a small nod. "All right." She leaned against the doorway. "You always stay this late?" "Only when there's still work to do." Silence stretched between them like a tight thread. "You don't talk much," she said. "I try not to waste words," he replied simply. A smile tugged at the corner of her lips, genuine but fleeting. She hadn't expected that. That was the beginning. She didn't understand it at first. But slowly, she found herself staying late more often. Not always with files, sometimes with a coffee mug she didn't need, sometimes with music playing quietly on her speakers, sometimes just to watch him. And when they spoke, rarely, it was never flirtatious. No charm, no games, just quiet honesty. Sei didn't seem to want anything from her, and that made her want something from him. It started with glances. Sei would walk in with a file, eyes lowered, posture calm. Simi would glance up from her desk, pretending to scroll through emails, but watching him. He moved like he didn't owe the world an explanation. She told herself it was curiosity. But curiosity doesn't make your breath hitch when someone speaks. The late evenings continued. Every other staff member cleared out by 6. And Simi? She began finding excuses to remain behind, even when there was nothing urgent. Sometimes they sat at opposite ends of the same office, working in silence. Other times she asked questions, half work-related, half not. "You always this quiet?" she asked once, half turned in her chair. Sei, rearranging documents in the cabinet, replied without looking at her. "Some people talk to fill the air. I only speak when silence can't carry the weight." She blinked, caught off guard. She swallowed the sudden flutter in her chest. But Sei was clueless. To him, Simi was still Madam, a distant cloud far above his world. He didn't read between the lines. She'd begun bringing 2 cups of tea at night and leaving one on the table beside him, without saying a word. One night, the electricity blinked out during a storm. The office floor went dark, save for emergency lights. Sei found her alone in the corridor, holding a flashlight, pretending she wasn't a little afraid. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, then added, "I hate storms." He said nothing, just stood beside her until the generator kicked back in. When the lights returned, she whispered, "Thanks." One Thursday night, she lingered after work again. Everyone else had gone. Sei was quietly sweeping the corner of the mailroom. Simi stepped in with a folder she didn't need to deliver. "You never asked questions," she said, standing beside the door. Sei paused, broom still in his hand. "About what?" "About me. About why I stay late. About why someone like me keeps ending up in the same room as someone like you." He turned to her. "Because you want to." And for the first time, she didn't have a comeback. She found herself waiting for him now. Not just in the office, in her thoughts, on weekends, in spaces that used to be filled by noise, parties, and pointless conversations. Sei had become the silence she craved, the stillness she didn't know she needed. And slowly, without permission or warning, the iron-hearted daughter of the CEO had begun to fall. Sei had always lived by one rule: don't get involved with what you can't keep. That rule had kept him out of trouble. But lately, Simi was making that rule hard to follow. She had changed, not loudly, but gradually. The coldness in her tone had softened. Her lashes no longer curled with arrogance when she spoke to others. The once fiery woman who snapped at interns now defended them in meetings. People started whispering behind closed doors that maybe, just maybe, the CEO's daughter had fallen ill, or in love. Sei noticed, but he didn't let himself believe it, until one evening changed everything. It was a Friday night, and the building was empty again, swallowed by silence. Sei stayed behind to update old inventory logs. When he entered the break room, he found her already there, seated at the far end of the long table, staring at her untouched tea. "Long day?" he asked, reaching for a bottle of water. She didn't answer immediately. Then, "I canceled a dinner with someone tonight." "Someone important? To my father?" "Yes. To me, not anymore." He turned slightly, unsure what to say. "I used to think power meant making people fear you," she continued, not looking at him. "But you come into a room and say nothing. Yet everything changes." He blinked. That was the first time she'd spoken so directly. "I'm just doing my job," he said quietly. "No," she whispered. "You're undoing me." After that night, things shifted. Sei began to catch on. And one night, as they walked side by side to the elevator, she asked, "Do you think I'm a terrible person?" He paused. "No," he said. "I think you're just learning how to be yourself, out loud." She smiled at that, the kind that didn't need approval from anyone. One rainy evening, the office flooded with thunder outside and golden lamplight inside. Simi sat across from him at her desk, both working in silence. Then out of nowhere, she said, "Say, if I wasn't who I am, would you ever consider someone like me?" From that moment, nothing remained the same. They weren't officially together, but the air between them changed. Their conversations grew deeper. Sei shared stories of his late parents, his childhood under the mango tree by the village stream. Simi opened up about the pressure of being the CEO's daughter, the loneliness that success often brings. One night, still in the office, just the two of them, Simi leaned over the desk and said softly, "I think I've been falling for you, and I don't know how to stop." Sei was still for a moment, her words settling into the silence between them. "You don't have to stop," he said. And with that, the walls between them finally crumbled. Their relationship became a secret rhythm. Simi, for the first time in her life, didn't feel like her father's daughter. She felt human. And Sei? He felt like home to her. But nothing that beautiful ever goes unnoticed for long. One Saturday, Simi invited him to her apartment. They cooked together, watched old movies. And that night, as rain tapped gently on the windows, she rested her head on his chest and whispered, "I want to meet your family." Sei hesitated, then said quietly, "They're gone." She sat up slowly. "All of them?" He nodded. "Father died when I was 10. Mother passed 2 years later. No siblings." She reached for his hand. "I'm sorry," she said. He smiled gently. "I was poor, but never unloved." The next step came naturally, meeting her parents. But the moment her father, Chief Adewale Ogundipe, found out she was dating a staff, he summoned her to his mansion. "You're going to ruin everything," he barked. "You'll throw away your inheritance for a man who doesn't even belong in our world?" Simi stood her ground. "He's kind, loyal, and he's never once used me." "He doesn't need to. He's using your heart." Her mother sat quietly, not daring to speak. "I forbid this marriage," her father declared. But Simi didn't break. For the first time in her life, she fought for someone, not against them. "I'm not marrying your legacy. I'm marrying my peace." The battle lasted for weeks. Whispers in the office, tension at home. But love, when real, survives war. And soon they stood before a judge in a small courtroom and promised that no matter what the world said, they would choose each other. They moved into a modest home on the city's edge. They were truly happy. Their love was blooming like the first rains of Zamara. Sei and Simi had grown into a rhythm of joy, cooking together, laughing at inside jokes, late-night walks under the orange sky. They shared everything. One sunny afternoon, Simi decided to walk to a nearby supermarket to pick up some foodstuff. It was an ordinary day, filled with sunshine and soft winds. She never made it past the checkout counter. She collapsed right there, unconscious. A nearby nurse in the store helped rush her to the hospital. Her phone was locked, but her name tag helped them trace her emergency contact. The hospital tried reaching her husband. By the time Sei arrived, panting, frightened, Simi was already sitting up in bed, quiet, eyes unfocused. The doctor had told her the truth. "There's a tumor in your brain," he said calmly. "And it's growing faster." "I'm sorry," she asked how many both she has left. "At best, you have 3 months." The words echoed in her chest like thunder. She asked no questions, just stared blankly at the wall, hands trembling. She didn't cry until the doctor left. When Sei arrived and saw her being discharged, he rushed to her side. "What happened? They said you fainted?" She forced a small smile. "Just malaria," she said. "Nothing serious. I'm fine now." Sei, relieved, hugged her and helped her into the car. She never told him the truth. Back home, life resumed, at least on the surface. But behind her smile, Simi was dying inside. She began writing letters she never gave him, praying longer at night, cherishing every little moment. She wanted to shield him from the storm she couldn't stop. Until the day she made a small mistake. She left her prescribed medication on the bedside table. Sei entered the room while she was in the shower and noticed the label. "Huh, is this vitamin?" he muttered, reading the strange name. Before he could pick it up, Simi burst out of the bathroom. She snatched the container from his hand with a nervous laugh. "Ah, that? It's just vitamins the doctor gave me to boost my energy." He raised an eyebrow, confused but trusting. "Oh, okay." She smiled, kissed his cheek, and changed the subject. But guilt grew heavy in her chest. A month later, they were preparing for a picnic. She wore a yellow dress. He packed her favorite jollof rice. They stepped out the front door. and she collapsed again. This time, Sei didn't waste a second. He lifted her into his arms and rushed her straight to the hospital. While Simi lay unconscious, Sei paced the waiting area in panic. The doctor stormed out minutes later, furious. "You were supposed to reduce her stress level. I told you. She shouldn't be stressed out like this with her condition." Sei froze. "What condition?" The doctor's face changed. You didn't know?" "No." The doctor sighed, his tone turning gentle. "Your wife has a brain tumor. She came here alone weeks ago. I assumed she told you." The world around Sei seemed to vanish. His knees buckled. He collapsed into a chair, covering his face as the tears came. When Simi woke up, she didn't ask. She saw it in his eyes. The way he held her hand, the way he touched her cheek, so softly, like porcelain. "You know now, don't you?" she whispered. He nodded, lips trembling. He didn't speak. He just pulled her into his arms, and they cried together, loudly, helplessly, like two children lost in a storm. Sei called her parents. Her father came with fury. "I told you not to marry this boy," he snapped, pacing the hospital hallway. "See what it has caused? He didn't even know what was happening." Her mother ignored him. She sat beside her daughter, tears sliding down her cheeks as she held her hand. "My baby," she whispered. "You didn't deserve this." Simi cried again, not because of the pain, but because the clock was ticking, and she hated what it was stealing from her. The following weeks were a blend of joy and grief. Sei and Simi stayed home more. They talked for hours. They cried in each other's arms. They laughed at old memories. They danced on the balcony with no music. Every second became sacred. They didn't talk much about the end, but they both felt it coming. 2 months passed. One blessed morning, Sei was in the kitchen, making yam porridge, her favorite. He hummed softly, waiting for the oil to heat up, when he heard a loud thud. His heart skipped. He dropped the spoon and ran to her, whispering her name, begging her to stay. He rushed her to the hospital. They tried everything, but the doctor walked out with a face that said it all. "I'm sorry," he said. Sei broke. He dropped to his knees, both fists clenched to his chest as his cries echoed down the cold hallway. Her mother screamed. Her father sat stunned, unable to move. The light of their lives was gone, but her love still remained. The days after her death moved like fog. The house felt colder without her. Sei moved through each room while folding her journal shut. He found a small envelope. He opened it slowly. Inside was a single line. "Thank you for loving me." He sat on the bed, the letter shaking in his hands. Then, quietly, his body crumbled. The tears came hard and fast. Grief folded him in like a wave, sharp, breathless, final. He didn't speak. There were no words left to say, only silence, and the weight of a love that never truly left.